Hello, and welcome to our second rendition of Digital Discussions, Civics, Community, and how the youth can impact America is really what we're looking at. This week, we're going to be talking with two distinguished members from our House, our Assembly in California. We're going to be speaking with Sandra Cervantes and with Jose Medina, both of them from Riverside. And we want to start with introducing our students who are going to be doing the interviews this week. First is Sergio Odell.
Hello, everybody. My name's Sergio. I'm a senior at Arlington High School. I'm also a third-year member of Riverside Youth Council. I coordinate the Civics and big group. I also hosted the last webinar before this one, and that featured the guests, Mayor Bailey, Council Member Andy Melendrez, and School Board Trustee Patricia Lock-Dawson.
And then we also have Nathaniel Lee.
Hey everybody, my name is Nathaniel. I'm a senior at the Riverside STEM High School. I will be in charge of hosting next week's webinar, where we'll be featuring Congressman Mark Takano.
And then finally, Reneen Vase is going to be doing the interviews today.
Hi guys, my name's Reneen Vase. I'm currently a freshman at Cal Poly Pomona, majoring in political science. I was on the board for RYC for the past 2 years, and I'm excited to be hosting this webinar today. With that being said, I would like to introduce Assembly Member Sabrina Cervantes, representing the 60th Assembly District that encompasses parts of northwestern Riverside County, including communities of Corona, Rupa Valley, Eastville, Norco, and the following Riverside neighborhoods: Arlington, Arianza, Airport, and La Sierra. We also have with us today Assemblymember Jose Medina, representing the 61st Assembly District that encompasses parts of northwestern Riverside County, including communities of Moreno Valley, Terrace, and the following Riverside neighborhoods: Downtown, Magnolia Center, Canyon Crest, Alessandro Heights, University, Eastside, Hunter Industrial Park, Sycamore Canyon Park, Mission Grove, and Orange Crest. I'd like to welcome you guys here today. To start off with our interview questions, the first question is going to be going towards Assemblymember Sabrina Cervantes. I believe that the youth need to be informed of, how the state assembly works. How do you do your job on a daily basis? So if you could start by answering that for us today.
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for having me on and joining my colleague, Assemblymember Jose Medina. It's been an honor to represent this district since 2016. Being able to serve 500,000 residents is certainly a very distinct honor. I'm proud to be a Riverside County native and, to represent this part of the region in Sacramento. So you're asking, what does it look like, our day-to-day in Sacramento, or just in general, an assembly member's schedule? I will share with you that I am in Sacramento Monday through Thursday, in which I get to vote on legislation. I get to introduce bills before the legislative body that gets to be voted on in both sides of the House. I have a series of meetings that go back to back throughout the entire day, Monday through Thursday. I'm only one of 80 members in the Assembly. And so members get to represent their districts over a 2-year term, and they get to run for re-election should, that's, what they want to do every 2 years. But for me, I was elected to represent the people within my district, which is Assembly District 60. And what I've always focused on has been policies that work from the bottom up instead of the top down. So I've always focused on policies that directly impact my community at large. So I think about it from my district perspective, and then I think about it from a regional perspective. What are the challenges within the Inland Empire? And then I look at it from a state perspective. What can I do to help further our values and our goals as a state? So I meet with many different members of our communities. I have many constituents that drive to Sacramento to meet with me to discuss critical issues that they care about, that they're advocating on behalf of. and then I get a vote on bills. I sit on many different committees. I'm the chair of the Jobs, Economic Development, and the Economy Committee. I'm also the chair of the Veterans Education and Employment Committee. And I sit on Banking and Finance Committee, where we're able to discuss a series of banking issues, many of which are affecting a lot of our marginalized, vulnerable communities. So we get to vote on those type of bills. I actually sit on the PERS committee as well as the Communication and Conveyance Committee. So that's just kind of a quick snapshot, but just know that, you know, every day we work incredibly hard on behalf of our constituency. And it doesn't stop Monday through Thursday. After we end our session on Thursday, we fly back home to our respective districts and we do the community work. And that sometimes goes on Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, and sometimes falls over into Sundays. Although we try to keep Sundays staff free to be with their families, for us to spend time with our families. But our work is 6 days a week, often sometimes even 7.
Thank you for that. You mentioned how you are in charge of some of the committees that you listed off. We wanted to know, what bills have you passed and what bills have you advocated for that involve youth-related issues that you see today?
Yeah, so there are a number of youth-related bills that come before us within my different committees, the ones that I sit on that I just shared with you, but also that come before the Assembly Chamber. I will share with you, there was just a bill that you all might be interested in, is lowering the voting age to 17, which I was a co-author of. This is something that's critically important, especially now as we are, as you can see my background, just shout out to making sure you're registered to vote. We need to make sure that youth are part of the change that we want to see within all of our communities, and that their voices are uplifted. So when bills come before the Assembly Chamber, I'm very eager and excited to support bills such as the bill lowering the voting age to 17 that my colleague and good friend and also a member of the LGBT caucus has authored, Assemblymember Evan Lowe, and I'm actually part of the Millennial Caucus as well, he and I. So we have a small Millennial Caucus in Sacramento, and we get to actually dive into these issues that are affecting our generation and the next generation. Some bills that I can highlight that I've worked on that directly affect youth has been dealing with the university and college campus sexual assault policies, making sure the college campuses are updating their policies on a yearly basis. And so that's something that got signed by the governor into law. Another bill that I like to highlight is California Kickstart My Future loan forgiveness program. That's Assembly Bill 1767. Many students, as you all know, when as a college student yourself, and many of you that are going to go on to an institution of higher education, we know the debt crisis that is looming before us. And so this is something that I am very passionate about in the higher education realm, is ensuring that students don't have to graduate with this debt looming over them years after years after years. And so this is something that's incredibly important to me as I continue working and representing my communities in Sacramento. So those are just quick 3 highlights for you.
Thank you so much. I would like to also add that actually this discussion that we're having today is involving our pre-voter registration that we're actually doing inside our USD. We are trying to have students in the high schools from ages 16 to 17 pre-register to vote, because we see that it's very important that we exercise our democratic right, that students are involved in the democratic process and that they're involved and they know the issues that are going around in their communities. So we want them to make that impact. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing for us. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
The next question is, I wanted to touch a little on your identity as a Latino assembly member. So what does that mean to you to be elected into office as a Latina assembly member?
So just to give you a quick snapshot of what the legislature looks like currently, and this is Assembly and Senate combined. Currently, there are 29 members of the California Latino Legislative Caucus, 16 of those members being Latina. So I'm one of 16 Latinas representing the state of California. And as a Latina and a daughter of a Mexican immigrant, I'm incredibly proud to be part of the growing numbers in the legislature. We bring a diversity of thought and experience to the table, to every conversation. And so I think that, we're making strides in ensuring that there is greater diversity at the state level. And that is by lifting up other members of our community and encouraging them to run for office. And that includes all levels of government. But together we can make these incredible strides towards ensuring that the legislature is reflective of our diverse population in California, which is already nearly 40% of the population identifies as Hispanic or Latino. And so these numbers, although may seem good with the numbers that we currently have, we still have a long way to go to ensure that there's equity there. But I also want to just point out as well that I wouldn't be here if I didn't stand on the shoulders of my ancestors, if it wasn't for members in our community that paved the way for me to be here today. I am the first, as I mentioned, I may not have mentioned it earlier, but I'm actually the first Latina millennial in the state legislature. But I know that I need to do my part in uplifting the next generation, that I will not be the youngest member. I am currently the youngest member of the legislature, but I know that in 2020, November 3rd election, we have the opportunity to elect the next youngest assembly member in the state of California. And we're, hard at work ensuring that we can, get that victory, and we'll bring more diversity to the legislature as well. So again, I also identify as LGBT. So I'm a millennial, I'm a Latina, member of the LGBT community. So all these unique perspectives, and I'm a recent mother of triplets, I may add. So all these perspectives are so important as we have critical conversations that are affecting the lives of millions of Californians.
Thank you so much for the work that you do. That's amazing. I wanted to touch a little bit into, being a brand new parent as triplets. Congratulations. I think that's really amazing. So I wanted to ask, how has being a parent helped or even changed your perspective on your day-to-day work?
Very important question. Motherhood is certainly the greatest joy, but also comes with a bit of anxiety, as I have 9-month babies who are learning to crawl. So it is, quickly becoming, baby-proofing the entire home. But, in the case of working families, so many families, especially during this pandemic, are having to face even tougher challenges. And that's something that we are trying to be a support system as legislators, and creating and having policies that can help working families out. But my family and I are no different. I'm very fortunate to have the support of my immediate family, my wife, my sisters, my mother-in-law. And so it's wonderful to have that support system, and especially from my colleagues as well. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I am providing the very best opportunities that I can for my children, and that I leave them with a world that is better than the one that I inherited. So that, falls into how I view policy and how I approach policy at this level.
All right. Thank you for that. I wanted to also ask, seeing you as one of the youngest millennials to be elected into the state assembly, what made you get involved in politics at such a young age? What made you inspire the change, and how can you inspire our youth audience to get out there and to make change?
So I will say that I come from a family who has been very engaged in the political realm from a very young age. My mother is actually a school teacher. She's a first grade teacher, a dual immersion teacher. And my father was very involved in our community growing up. And so, at an early age, I knew kind of my path, the path that I wanted to take in order to represent my community. Now, I will say that there's so many opportunities for youth to get engaged and get involved right now. I know that sometimes, some days, it could seem very heavy. It could be a very big mental load that many students are facing right now. And not just that, but we understand that, you know, there are important issues that are facing youth right now. And these are issues that we need to bring, you know, to the table and to the discussion table, and ensuring that we have policies that are going to address these critical issues. So I was just on a call yesterday with another group of youth, civically engaged students from Riverside, all parts of Riverside, and they were discussing the challenges around mental health and some issues relating to higher education. And so these are issues that are most pressing to them. And so these are issues that we as legislators can also focus on as we narrow down our legislative package for the next legislative session. And so these are issues that my staff and I are currently discussing. You know, what can we do in the area of higher education? How can I work with my colleague, Assemblymember Jose Medina, who's the chair of the Higher Education Committee, so that we can ensure that your voices are heard through the policy or even through the budgetary process. And so I think that every student should have the ability, you know, to get a good education, whether that's going on to a four-year college, or that's going on to a trade school or a certificated program. These are all things that we are in favor of. And so I want you to know that you know, no student should take on these mountains of debt just to get a good education and to improve your life and to improve your family and your generational, you know, to improve your life and your family's life and your community overall. So, you know, these are things that we are very much aware of and that we continue to discuss. But I hope that, you know, we can continue highlighting some of these critical points throughout this year and going into next legislative session.
You also mentioned how, you know, there was a group of students that were from Riverside that talked about the mental health issues that are going on. I wanted to touch on what other issues you think that are affecting the youth today, and what can you do and what can we do to help solve those problems?
What we're doing today is, you know, having discussions, you know, making sure that you touch base with your legislators, making sure you touch base with your elected officials within the community, and even community leaders that may not be in elected position. Making sure that we can have these points of discussion is so critical, because many folks may not realize, in order for me to introduce bills, it starts with an idea. And I get these ideas from the bottom up, as I mentioned in my opening. I get these ideas from community members, from students, from parents, you know, from grandparents, and so from commuters. These are ideas that we take with us and we turn into legislative proposals in Sacramento. So I would encourage you to be part of these discussions. I have an internship opportunity through my state office, and many students have taken advantage of that internship opportunity, where they're able to learn the inner workings of state government. And within that internship, they realize all the work that state government, especially an assembly office, can do for families. And so, you know, I would encourage students to outreach to us that way as well, because you're going to be able to gain so much more knowledge and insight on what an assembly member does for your community, as well as how state government can help families, especially during these COVID challenges that we are facing. So I think that, you know, I would rather hear from our youth on what issues that they believe are top priority, because that is, at the end of the day, that's important to me.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Power, did you have something to say real quick about what's going on right now?
It looks like Assemblymember Medina was not able to get on this afternoon. So we're really sorry that we weren't able to kind of go back and forth. We were hoping we might be able to ask him some of the similar questions, obviously not about motherhood, but similar questions regarding policies and his ideas. So if you don't mind, we can continue the conversation with you. We're enjoying it. And I know that we have some
Yes.
questions that students have also sent in beyond the ones that Renee kind of prepped you for in advance. But we did vet them, so no worries.
That works well.
All right, good. I'm glad that you're able to kind of roll with us here for a moment. I appreciate it. So if Renee, you want to continue with those, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll start on the student questions. We've had, a survey with, this upcoming discussion that we're having today, and there was a lot of students that were, having questions about what's going on today. So this first question is from Christina from the virtual session, and she wanted to ask what your thoughts are on the Mental Parity Act, SB 885. What are your thoughts on that bill?
I'm sorry, can you tell me what member introduced that bill? That's always very helpful to me.
Let me pull that up real quick because I do not have that on the top of my head.
Brad, do you happen to know that?
Says Beal.
If it's the one
Introduced
that
by Weiner.
Okay.
Principal co-author Senator Beal, introduced by Senator Weiner.
And what was the bill again, if you can just share that with me?
Yes, it is the Mental Parity Act, SB 885.
I know that's the subject of the bill, but if you can go a little deeper into what the bill actually does. It's a Senate bill, so I wanted to make sure that I could touch on it a little more in depth.
Right. It says existing law knows the California Mental Health Parity Act requires every health care service plan, contract, or disability insurance policy issued, amended, or renewed on or after July 1st, 2000 that provides hospital, medical, or surgical coverage to provide coverage of the diagnosed and medically necessary treatment of severe mental illness of a person at any age.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for touching just on that piece of policy. Now, I don't know what happened to that piece of policy because I don't have my legislative book before me right now, but I will share with you the Senator Bill and Senator Scott Weiner, excuse me, are both big advocates in the mental health space. In fact, we often have discussions within the different caucuses on how, we could be supportive of one another's bills and legislative proposals. So I know that Senator Beal, this is something that he's always worked in the space of, is mental health. And so he always has a legislative package dealing with that issue. This is something that as a member of the state assembly, we are always trying to uplift this conversation. Alone in Riverside County, we lack mental health dollars dealing with mental health realignment. And so this is an issue that I've been in discussion with since I was elected with our Board of Supervisors and the county administration, because at the end of the day, if we're going to deal with mental health issues and challenges facing our county, facing our cities and communities, we need to make sure that we have the proper funding to address these issues. And so just something to touch on because it's critically important. And we're seeing that unfold right now in our communities. But very much in support of Senator Beal's proposal.
Thank you. This next question is from Julia from Poly. She says that what is the best way to get involved in school change when we are not in person? How can I be an influence on my school's community?
So one way I will say is use your platform on social media to get involved and get engaged or continuing to stay engaged. I know that these times may be challenging where we're not doing the normal going door to door, talking to voters during this election cycle. We're not meeting in community settings like we normally would be doing with organizations and nonprofits, having these discussions. But I would encourage you to still reach out to different groups, organizations that fall in line with the issues that you care about. And that includes reaching out to local campaigns where you can get involved, where you can feel that your voice is where you can feel like your time is being effective, and you're able to really you know, get out of sometimes we fall into you know, a rough time where we're stuck in our homes, and all we need to do is just get a spark of inspiration to get us back into a positive groove. And so I would encourage you to reach out to different local organizations. I'm sure that you have counselors. I spoke to a Oliver Unified school counselor, and all the resources that they're providing to their students at a high school level, so that their students continue to feel engaged, that they feel that their voices matter and that they're being heard. And so I would say reach out to your school counselor, reach out to some of your teachers. I'm sure that there are many suggestions out there. Those are just a few that I wanted to share with you today. You can tune into your local city council meetings. They are being streamed online. You can watch them as well on TV. Get involved with your Riverside County Youth Corps. Get involved with our internship program. There are still opportunities out there that don't require, you know, in-person meetings. Because we want to make sure that we continue to keep everyone healthy and safe during these times. But the opportunities are limitless. And if you want actual, you know, resources, a list of organizations, numbers, emails, you can always reach out to my office as well. We're more than happy to help you navigate that in any way that we can.
Thank you so much for that. I know that will be, you know, a spark of interest for a lot of our viewers today. I know a lot of people had a similar question to that. I'm going to go a little off topic. Well, not off topic, but, you know, we had multiple questions regarding the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening right now and what's going on in our modern day society. A student, Max from Ramona, wanted to know, what are your thoughts on the protests that are happening today?
This is an issue, you know, that we're dealing with that's very, very important that we address. You know, we are seeing this issue across the streets of America, and you know, it illustrates the structural racism rooted within our society, and we need to continue pushing for policies that address, you know, this structural racism. And we cannot deny the truth that Black Americans face discrimination and violence every single day, and they are just trying to live their lives. And we need to ensure that we support organizations that are uplifting our Black community as well. From you know, supporting organizations, you know, I just honored a nonprofit of the year that deals with these type of issues, that addresses these issues from a community standpoint. And you know, and this is something that I believe is needed. We need to uplift different groups, different businesses, different experiences during this challenging time. But we cannot be silent about Black Lives Matter. You know, words do not solve this issue. We need to elevate, like I mentioned, Black voices, institute actual substantial criminal justice reform. These are discussions that have been, we've been having in Sacramento. These are discussions that we had toward the end of session as we push for policy and bills to get through the Assembly and to the Senate and onto the governor's desk, and efforts that I have been in support of. So again, there has been so many wounds inflicted with century of racism and oppression, and it's time that this be at the forefront, and we lead in the right way.
Thank you so much for standing in solidarity with them. It really does mean a lot. I know, you know, a lot of people have been suffering because of what's going on in this country. And I know a lot of viewers, you know, will be satisfied with your response to this. This next question is involving the pandemic that we're having right now. So this is a question from Kyle from Poly, and his question is, how has the pandemic affected the work that you do for Riverside and the community? And how do you plan in the future with such uncertainty due to the pandemic?
So we know that next year we will be facing a challenging budget cycle because of the pandemic. And so with that, this year, kind of going back when we first really hit the stay-at-home order March of this year, I started to shift my focus on COVID-related issues that I was able to introduce and push for. As a chair of the Jobs Committee in the State Assembly, I've been able to focus my efforts on our economic recovery, uplifting our small business communities, providing them with $50 million in tax credits, so that in hiring tax credits so they can hire folks locally. We know that many folks are struggling to find employment. So we want to be able to give small businesses the tools to hire folks, but also get a tax credit at the end of that. We've been able to focus our legislative package the last few weeks of session on workforce development bills, addressing our skills gap, because we need to look at post-pandemic. What is happening to the different industries? What do we need to ensure that in order to ensure that employees are meeting the needs of employers when it comes to filling these positions? And so is there certain skills gaps that we need to focus on? So we're bringing in the employers, we're bringing in different labor groups into this conversation. We're bringing in the community college as well as the K through 12 institutions of education into this conversation so that we're all at the table to discuss what the next steps are. And so I'm happy to say that that bill passed both houses in the legislature and is sitting on the governor's desk today. This is critically important when we're talking about the future of work, because the future of work is changing. And so I'm able to lead these conversations when it comes to being the chair of the Jobs and Economic Development Committee. We are going to continue to focus on COVID-related issues as we head into next legislative session. A lot of our bills were held in different committees this year because of COVID. A lot of members had to really narrow down their legislative bill package. I was also a member who decided to narrow down my legislative bill package so that we can get the most critical bills out through every committee and onto the governor's desk.
Thank you so much. As we begin to wrap it up, I wanted to ask one more question. If you could do anything in the world next week, what would it be?
It would be to take my triplets to the beach. That's something that, I really, again, as a new mother of triplets, it's been tough to stay indoors, stuck inside with not much support, just because we want to make sure that their health and their safety is prioritized. But with all the fires that we've been experiencing, it's been a challenge to get out and just take a stroll, take a walk. But I want my triplets to experience different things as well, and I hope that our air quality will be better, and so that we can enjoy family time together. It's something that I certainly put at the top of my priority list these days, is spending as much quality time with my family as I can. Life is so precious, and we just need to make sure that the folks around us that we love and care about know that we value them. And so I want, my family to know that, I care about them, and I want to spend as much time as I can now before we head back into session in January. So that would be one thing I, would love to do with my family.
Thank you so much again for joining us, Assemblymember Sabrina Cervantes. I know we and everyone that's watching appreciates your input. I know, pre-voter registration is important. Getting the youth involved is important, and all these issues that are going on, you clearly have been supporting it all the way. So we wanted to thank you again for joining us. As we come to an end, students, if you need to mark your attendance for a teacher or for credit, please follow the link on the screen, and they'll put that up shortly.
Thank you, everyone.
Congressman Mark Takano on Wednesday, September 30th at 3 p.m. For more information regarding how to pre-register to vote and on our webinars, visit the website in the caption.